Hi, my name is Tanner Richard Kraft. I am 22 years old, and I am proud to call myself a Missourian and an American. And America is at a crossroads. This upcoming election is perhaps the single most important election in this nation's history. And I think Bernie Sanders is the best man for this nation and for the state of Missouri. So I call upon my peers and fellow Missourians to vote for Bernie Sanders in the March 10th primary. There are many factors at play here, but I think the most important factors to address right now are healthcare and climate change. Healthcare has been one of the most critical issues Americans have faced in the 21st century. The Affordable Care Act was a great first step, but that's just what it was, a first step. Studies estimate that still over 45,000 Americans die every year from lack of health insurance. And a whole third of Americans delay medical care because they fear what the costs will do to them financially. And yet, despite the fact that this is happening, America spends more money per person than any country on earth on healthcare. We are spending the most money on healthcare, and we still have coverage gaps and medical bills so high that people fear getting the medical attention they need. How can we have a system we are spending the most money and yet we are getting the worst results? Why isn't this happening in other countries that are developed? It's because other countries have a single-payer healthcare system. One organization designated to run healthcare, they take on the costs, and it's funded by taxes. Now, I know there is a lot of fear about how much these taxes would take out of your paycheck, but Bernie's Medicare for All plan will actually save you money. You won't have to worry about premiums anymore. You won't have to worry about deductibles anymore, and you won't have to worry about co-pays anymore. These out-of-pocket costs add up, and with Bernie's plan, they will vanish. Another concern I see raised about Medicare for All is whether or not people will be able to continue seeing the doctors they prefer. However, with Bernie's plan, Americans will actually have even more choices in their healthcare. Without insurance networks limiting which hospitals, doctors, and services are covered, patients will no longer need to worry about which options are in-network or out-of-network. Freeing everyone to make quality decisions based off of the quality of care they need rather than how much that care would cost. And with the rise in public health concerns, especially as a result of the coronavirus making its way to the States, it is crucial that we are able to get the quality testing and preventive care we need in order to ensure the health and safety of all American citizens. If you wanted a system that will protect us from this virus and all future threats, Bernie's healthcare plan is the only one that'll get us there. Medicare for All will give thousands, if not millions of Americans and Missourians access to the high-quality healthcare they need and deserve in order to thrive and pursue the American dream. Now, the second issue I'd like to talk about is climate change. This is perhaps the single most pressing issue of our time for the world, for America, and for Missouri. And I know, I can list the clear worldwide threat climate change poses. I can talk about how mass flooding will send people on the coasts inland, which will cause huge overcrowding issues and will greatly reduce the quality of life for everyone. Or about how fires have devastated Australia over the past few months, leaving unprecedented damage. Or how so many areas are being impacted by extreme weather that they simply do not have the infrastructure to handle. All of these issues are greatly important. However, what I would like to do is focus in on Missouri specifically for a minute here. Climate change is going to impact us Missourians in quite a few ways, but the two biggest dangers are how hot it's going to make the state and then how wet it's going to make the state. Currently, Missouri averages about 15 days a year, with the temperatures reaching extreme and dangerous levels. However, by 2050, the state is expected to see this number rise to 60 such days a year if we continue down this path we're on. Due to these temperature increases, we can also expect to see more mosquitoes throughout the state. We've already seen growth over the past 30 years, with mosquito season now lasting about 130 days a year. And that number will only continue to rise if these extreme temperatures are not addressed. These changes will put our elderly, are young, are poor, and are sick, in an especially difficult position. With the rise in mosquitoes, there is an increased risk of catching a mosquito-borne illness, while the rising temperatures themselves pose the risk of heat-related deaths and illnesses including fainting, difficulty breathing, and heat stroke. This puts us all at risk, and these vulnerable populations are sure to be hit the hardest. Now, while climate change will undoubtedly make Missouri hotter, it's also going to make it wetter. The polar ice caps melting and increased rainfall are of course causing the sea level to rise and the coast to flood. However, the impact doesn't stop there. The rivers are experiencing record-breaking increases in inland flooding. This jeopardizes not just low-income Missourians, but Missourians from all walks of life, as 220,000 people living in the great state of Missouri are living in areas with an elevated risk of flooding. Not to mention the threat posed to riverside businesses as well as the agricultural industry. Last year, 1.2 million acres of Missouri farmland were reported as prevented plant as a direct result of flooding, causing untold financial loss for farmers and in some cases, making the land permanently unfarmable. Additionally, local business owners have reported limited access to their businesses for months at a time due to these conditions, and even longer closures to accommodate cleanup efforts. Many farmers, business owners, and homeowners are still recovering from the damages caused by last year's flooding. And this is expected to get even more severe as increases in rainfall continue in these years to come. This is why we need a leader devoted to tackling climate change right now, while we are still able to do something about it. This is why Bernie Sanders' support of the Green New Deal is critical for the future of our state, our nation, and all of humankind. This deal is not only going to reverse and slow down the damaging effects of our climate crisis, but it's going to help generate some industry. And that industry is going to create thousands and thousands of jobs, good jobs, for Missourians across this state. America is at a crossroads. This is the most pivotal election since the Great Depression. And when America needed a leader to take it on, we elected a man many today would call a socialist. Then he won 4 times. Bernie represents a return to the FDR style of Democrat that stood up for the working class. I would love to see a return to the style of governing that my relative, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, stood for. And I imagine millions of Missourians feel the same way. FDR gave Americans a New Deal and stood up against the greatest threat of his time, which was fascism. Bernie Sanders will give Americans a Green New Deal and stand up to the greatest threat of our time, climate change. So please, when the Missouri Democratic primary rolls around come March 10th, vote for Bernie Sanders. He will defeat Trump, he will stand up for the working class, and he will lead America to a new golden age. Thank you.